Nyiko Masango, Mr. Dynamix, turned his life experiences into life lessons and then penned thoughts to paper. Now available in his autobiographical offering, Mr. Dynamix, It's a Life That Chose Me. That's the title of the book. And his work explores themes related to finding healing, clarity, leadership. There's also aspects of youth development, rebuilding after setbacks, and some of the more personal anecdotes along the way, of course, where his honest and genuine accounts serve as a mirror and also just a map for the reader to ultimately grow. Now, the mentor, speaker, extraordinary man at large joins us to chat a little bit further about his offering and really what went into penning thoughts to paper. Nyiko, good morning. Thank you for your time in the SABC at this hour.
Good morning to you, Lizzo, and the viewers.
Thank you for being so raw and vulnerable in this autobiography.
Yes.
It couldn't have been easy. And, you know, just before we get into really what the book entails, I wonder if we could get to the moment that you knew it was important to pen thoughts to paper and give us this offering. What inspired ultimately?
I think what inspired me, it's a quote from Dr. Miles Monroe when he talked about the richest place on earth being the graveyard.
Yeah.
He said in the graveyard there are books that are never written, businesses that are never started, music that is never composed. So I thought to myself, if I go to the grave without writing this book, I would have robbed the world of the gem and the treasure of what I've experienced.
And thank you for that, because as I mentioned, it was a raw account from the onset. You don't delve into the wisdom. You start at the place of wounds.
Exactly.
You speak about identity, the importance of knowing who you are, where you come from, but also just your family dynamics. And I wonder how intentional you were about that as you take us along the journey of your life, 47 years and a half later.
Now, I'm very intentional in everything that I do. So I wanted to give people a backstory.
Yeah.
But again, it was connecting the dots. It said you can't connect the dots looking forward, you have to connect the dots looking back. So looking back, it was for me to make sense of what my life is, because most people think everything started today, but it started way back when I was still a kid, where I was not even aware of the things that were happening behind the scenes. So by looking back, I was able to connect and make sense of things myself, because sometimes you have to do that for yourself for life to make sense in the present. So I had to do that in order to tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's called A Life That Chose Me, but I think my question is, when did you decide to choose life? You're speaking about all these dynamics and looking back in hindsight, but when would that turning point have come for you? Beyond the extraordinary feats you've had in, cycling, climbing mountains, even just raising your son, your own inertia that you've had to overcome. When did you take, life by the horns, become proactive rather than reactive?
I think I've always been animated.
Mr. Personality back in 1995.
Yes, always been animated. So looking back, at the age of 8, I did things that I thought to myself, like, why did I do that? I mean, like running away from school, just following a helicopter into some factories. And those are the things that when I look back and I realized that I didn't have to do much in as far as my life was concerned. I just have to follow how my life was leading. So most of the time we try to recreate our life away from how we've been designed. So you don't create your life out of how you've been designed in terms of everything about you. You have to pattern your life based on your personality, allow your personality to lead you into what you can become in life.
Yeah, and I mean, before we get into some of the more personal anecdotes as well, I know that you're intentional about not necessarily dishing out advice, but serving as a mirror. You honestly say that society needs more mirrors. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about that. We have a lot of hype sessions going on. We have a lot of people that in the short term, hype us up, but transformation takes time, and it comes with honesty. It comes with facing ourselves and overcoming our own inertia. Tell us a little bit more about what you're witnessing on that front in our own society.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're really missing is the foundation, is to get to the grassroots. But again, is to have a long-term plan. Having a long-term plan, it means that we are not excited by what is happening now, but what it will translate to in the next 10, 15 years. So we need luminaries, we need visionaries, people who will be able to interpret what is happening today in relation to what it will be in 20 years to come. So we need people who can see far than what is happening now. So today we get hyped up by views, we get hyped up by trends, we get hyped up by things that are happening without looking at how it will translate to in the next 5 years. So we need a long-term vision in terms of how we approach life.
That's also speaking to leadership and ethical behavior and responsibility, and that's also something that you touch on. I think especially needed in South Africa now so more than ever, even if we're looking at the plight of the youth. We've seen the high unemployment stats, but the need for mentors, right? People that are also going to be walking alongside our youth and taking them, being that bridge for nation building. Tell us a little bit more about your own journey, even in relation to your son, and how that translates, from that microcosm into the broader society.
Yeah, so I grew up in church, but again, I realized that the process of being in church structures like Sunday school and youth has shaped me into the person that I am. And having had mentors and teachers who actually helped us to become the people that we were in terms of character building and just guiding us on few leadership principles, it was important for me. That's why the first thing that I did when I did my theology training was to start training the youth. I was not interested in what was to become of me in terms of, ministry and being well known. It was mainly just to build the youth. So investing in the youth has been my central theme throughout my life, because that is very important. When you invest in the youth, we are certain that leadership it's going to happen, because it said that success without a successor is failure. So most of the time we realize that we are happy with what is happening today without developing and grooming future leaders.
What about tackling some of those big projects as well? I mean, climbing Kilimanjaros, you're cycling. This comes with a lot of discipline. It comes with also having to face yourself. Loneliness, being alone as well. I mean, this is where you also develop some of your unique insights. You also advocate for that, right? To have that clarity of thought. I was also jokingly saying, next you have to go to the moon, because you haven't done what else is left. But tell us a little bit more about tackling such big projects, but how you break it down step by step. And that becomes how the snowflake eventually becomes an avalanche for you.
Actually, there was a time in my life where I wanted to be a motivational speaker. So I realized that motivation is overrated. And then I realized that I need to do something that will exemplify character, determination, courage. So I started off on a journey to do things that seem impossible. I don't like to do things that I'm guaranteed will succeed. I want to do things where failure is certain, so that I challenge myself mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So by doing all those activities, I was just trying to set a precedence in terms of people to have a bigger outlook in life, in terms of things that might be overwhelming, things that might seem impossible. So that's why I started to do all those activities, like cycling long distances, cycling from Zanin to Tanzania, climbing Kilimanjaro in 12 hours, cycling from Bay Bridge to Cape Town. Those are the things that I put on my list in order to help people overcome challenges that might seem big or projects that might seem insurmountable.
Well, you're 47 going on 48, but obviously you've lived a lifetime that many people can only dream about. Nyiko, thank you for your time and for sharing your story through your work. This mirror and map, it's poignantly depicted in his autobiography. Nyiko Masango joining us, really just reminding us to refuse to settle. Again, thank you to him for writing this and living and sharing us with his story.